Hey everybody, welcome back for the next video in our All About Accessories with Fordham. I'm Melissa Muir. In this video, I'm going to introduce you to one of my favorite tools. These are sandpaper rolls. These make my life so easy. Let's jump in. Let me show you a little bit about each of them, and then I'll show you how I use them here in my studio. So as you can see, there are 3 different varieties of these sandpaper rolls. Now their commonalities: they are each 1 inch wide by about 10 inches long. They are already wrapped and rolled and sealed into a little container. These are lovely because as you use them and they begin to wear down, all you have to do is tear off one layer and you're ready to go with the next. They are mounted on a 3/32 inch mandrel, so it's going to work with your quick change hand pieces quite easily. Now let's talk a little bit about some of their differences as well. So here we've got the 3 different brands, only 2 of which I really use here in my studio. These are the Sia brand, and they are made in Switzerland. They are great sandpapers, but I don't really use these much in jewelry. So I would use these a little bit more, maybe on paints and acrylics, kind of finishing some of those surfaces and such like that. However, the other 2 I use quite a bit. The one that I use the most often is my Stark brand. Now these are German-made paper, and they're great for doing anything like I do with all my metals. I like to use these on my bezels for any larger flat areas, something like that. Here in the center we have the Japanese papers, and this is the Kovacs brand. These 2 are the ones that I'm going to be using on my metals here in my studio. Both of them give you great longevity. Both of them are going to have a variety of grits, so it just depends on which one you prefer to use. Again, all of them have that 3/32 inch mandrel so that you will be able to put that into a quick change handpiece or your number 30 handpiece, whichever you prefer. Now, I have done several videos on these already that introduce you to the whole range of the sanding band line. Now you'll see here I don't actually have all of the papers on my holder, and that's because these are just the ones that I reach for the most. And you'll see here the Stark brand, I reach for these the most, so that's why I have most of them laid out right here in my studio. Now, it should go without saying, anytime you're going to be using any accessory in your flex shaft or your micromotor, you need to make certain that hair is taken care of, make sure it's pulled back, you have a respirator or a mask, and your safety glasses. When I'm working here on videos, I work here at a filming station. However, when I'm not in my filming station, I actually use my lighted work chamber with a vacuum system. And this allows me to have a lot more safety as all of those dust particles are pulled away from me. The key here: work safely. Now sometimes I have a little extra solder or something's just not quite as clean as I would like it to be. So that's where these sanding rolls can come in handy, and I can just use that to clean up any of those extra blemishes or little areas that need to have a little touch up. Now another thing to note on these is that there is a maximum speed that you should run them, and that is about 5,000 RPM. So it's not going to be something that's too fast. So here I'm just going to turn that over. Now I did not go too gritty on this. If I had gone with something that had a little more coarseness to it, I would be able to sand this down much faster, but already you can see how smooth this is. Yes, it's going to take me a little bit longer to do, but at least I know that I've got a decent surface on that. The other thing I like to do with these is to work on the inside of a ring or bezel, anything like that that needs a little bit of work. And it makes it very, very easy because it's just going to fit nicely into these areas. One thing I want to avoid is working in the exact same spot all the time. So I don't always want to work just right here at the tip. I also want to be working the entire length of that roll, and that is going to be to my benefit anyway, because I want to use all the grit, not just wear some of it down in one area. Now I showed you before on an unmounted bezel. This bezel, not only is it mounted, but my stone has already been set. This happened to have been a demonstration piece, so I didn't get all the cleanup done before I was ready to set this stone. So what I can do, and the thing that's kind of nice, is because we have that flat top on here, I can take that in and get this really close to this back plate. So now that allows me to come in and work right up against the back plate and clean up this bezel. And because the bezel has already been set, there's a little bit of a curve to it, but I can easily take care of that as well just by rotating my wrist as I work my way around this stone. And you can see I can easily get into those areas. And then I can rotate this 90 degrees and work on the back plate in the same manner. Another area where I like to use these is also on my bracelets. So I can take this and start working any areas that need to be smoothed out, including any of my solder joints. Now, as you can see, it would be very difficult to get into some of these tight areas sometimes. However, if I maneuver and I have enough room, I will be able to maneuver this to get into some of these tighter corners. So right here, I actually want to blend this joint just a little bit. So I can easily do that just by running this around that wire and smoothing down that point. And a little bit more work with maybe a smaller tool and I will be done. But at least I can get the majority of it roughed in with the sanding rolls. Now you'll see that I'm starting to wear down and get to the bottom paper on this. So one of the things I like to do is just pull in a pair of tweezers or something like that just to kind of get this started. I'm going to tear this here around and I'm just going to keep it, well, that one tore off completely, but I want to just kind of keep it down and bring that around to the point where we get back into the newest part of our sandpaper roll. And then we simply tear that off. And now I have a whole new sandpaper roll and I'm ready to go. When you first get these sandpaper rolls, they will be stamped with what their grit is. Some of them are a little bit easier to see than others, but as you also remove, it's stamped all the way through. One of the things I like to do is to put them in order, and that way then it's easier for me to figure out which ones are coarse and which ones are fine. Now, depending on the papers you get, they will go up to either 2,500 or even 3,000 grit. That's going to be pretty fine, and really all you're going to have to do after this is hit it with your polishing compound and you're ready to go. So this is the briefest of example of how I use them here in my studio. Now there are actually 2 different assortment sets for each type of paper. I have both assortments and a full line of them here in my studio because I use them all the time. What I would suggest is get the assortment set that includes one of every grit, and then you will begin to figure out which ones you reach for the most, and then you can order a whole pack of just that single individual grit. I hope you found this video helpful, and if you have any questions, make sure you drop those down into the comment section and we'll be sure to get back to you. As always, if you like the video, please give us a thumbs up, subscribe, ring that bell, and mark that you'd like all notifications so that you don't miss any in our series of the accessories. Next up, we are going to be talking about how to get a satin finish using some of the nylon finishing brushes. We'll see you guys next time.